I want to bring in somebody who was one of the impeachment officers against Bill Clinton in the trial, also a federal prosecutor, and Georgia Congressman Bob Barr. Congressman, I appreciate you being here for this. Look, I'm looking at this from a political standpoint now. Forget the legal side of this. These guys have to know that they're never going to be able to keep him off the ballot. You think they can get any legitimate court in America to convict a man for that?
They could. Well, the answer, the first question is no, they can't keep him off the ballot. As Sebastian said, the requirements, the only requirements, qualifications for serving as president are the three that he mentioned. They're in the Constitution. Can they find a court to convict him of something? Yes, they could. And if, in fact, they decide to bring charges in the District of Columbia, which seems where the venue would be if they move forward with these charges, their chances to obtain a conviction on something mount substantially. That doesn't mean it's correct, either in process or in substance, but could they do it? Sure, they could.
Yeah. Well, Sebastian, as we go into this, though, like we talked about earlier, the poll numbers keep going up every time they mess with them legally. But I'm sitting there thinking, at some point, do these people think that they can peel away Trump supporters by just pointing and screaming and saying orange man bad and ramping up the ridiculousness, using our system, using the process as the punishment?
Well, first, let me just go back to your question to Congressman Barr. You said convict him in any fair court. We're not talking about fair courts. We're talking about places like D.C., like Manhattan with Alvin Bragg. I mean, let's remind the world, the city I work in, D.C., voted 90.3% for Hillary Clinton. This is a hive of left-wing insanity. Just look at the BLM Boulevard, one block from the White House, that's actually painted on the tarmac of the road. Black Lives Matter in D.C. on the tarmac. So to your point, it's not, you got to stop thinking logically. I know you're a warrior. I know you're a former SEAL. Stop being rational. This isn't about rational thinking, okay? No, seriously. I mean, it's not a joke. This is hatred. Yeah. This is a man who must be stopped. Why? Because he's not part of the swamp. I said it when I was in the White House. I said it after I left the White House. Donald Trump won despite the GOP, not thanks to the GOP. He won despite the uniparty, whether it's the Democrats, whether it's the rhinos. They've got to stop this guy. I was at Mar-a-Lago when he announced for the second time, and I'm sitting there going, what the heck is this man doing after what they put him through for 6 years? He's announcing again, and then what does he say at the end of the speech? If I become president once more, I'm going to initiate a constitutional amendment to bar congressmen and senators from being lobbyists, and I'm going to initiate term limits. That is a declaration of war against the swamp. They have to stop him, and if they have to throw, indictment after indictment against him, they will.
Yeah. Well, Congressman, according to a New York Times poll, Trump is currently tied with Biden in a presidential hypothetical matchup. This is obviously a national poll. It's a state-by-state race. That said, looking back on when you were one of the impeachment officers when Bill Clinton was impeached, his poll numbers went up. Are you seeing similarities to that? And are you seeing any correlations? And if you had any advice for Donald Trump on how to boost this even more, what would it be?
The only thing I would suggest to him is just continue to be yourself. It's obviously working for him in a political context. Whether it will work in a legal, that remains to be seen. The thing about Bill Clinton was during the impeachment leading up to it in 1998, and then after the impeachment and lack of conviction in the Senate, he still continued to be very popular, which was largely because of something that Joe Biden has a severe deficit in, and that is charisma. Bill Clinton had a tremendous amount of charisma. Hillary Clinton had none, still has none, but Bill Clinton knew how to use that. Bill Clinton also had something else that seems very lacking in President Biden, and that is a great deal of intelligence. Bill Clinton was, probably still is, a very smart man, a very good politician, and very charismatic. And he was able to use all of that to convince a large segment of the American electorate that he was only impeached because of his relationship with Monica Lewinsky, which, of course, had little to do with it. It had everything to do with perjury and obstruction.
Right.
So, I think President Trump, if he sticks to doing what he's doing, talks about the facts, talks to his base, that will continue to keep his numbers up. But we all know, none of us have been in the this uncharted territory. If the president actually would be, former president that is, be convicted during a campaign. I mean, that would be the most bizarro world we've ever been in. Yeah. But again, as Sebastian said, it would not keep him from being sworn in as president if he wins the electoral vote.
That'd be crazy. Sebastian, real quick, I got about a minute left. Election interference. I mean, they you know, look, what they did with COVID is they bent the rules within a lot of times the bounds of the law to fit their narrative, to fit their voter base. You know, they can't, American people are not going to fall for another COVID-style lockdown. Is this their play to try to win 2024?
I've been saying this for weeks now on my daily radio show. They don't have the cover of COVID. They can't mail out 81 million mail-in ballots unbidden. They don't have that opportunity. So what do they have? They have the deep state. They have political persecution. And one last thing, Carl. You know what the most disgusting thing of all is? I mean, President Trump can take it. I know him. He's made of titanium. What they did to that poor working class man yesterday, Carlos de Oliveira, the maintenance man. I thought the left represents Hispanics, minorities, the working class. They put that man through hell, charged him with crimes that could total 400 years in prison, $100,000 bail. Why? Because they needed one more body on the pyre to burn. That's who the left have become. So no, President Trump can take it, but what the left is doing in the meantime, it is utterly despicable and un-American, Carl.
Yeah, well, I hope that there's something's going to be done about this. All right, well, gentlemen, appreciate you being here. Bob, Sebastian, thank you.
Thanks.
My pleasure.